medicine and healthcare. And it's now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for today, Dr. Paul Fine. Dr. Fine is from the Department of Internal Medicine. He earned his undergraduate degree at Harvard, then he saw the light, and came to Michigan for medical school and residency before joining the faculty. Dr. Fine has been an enormously valued faculty member. He's received the Dean's Outstanding Clinician Award in 2011, more than a dozen teaching awards, including the Kaiser Permanente Award for Excellence in Clinical Teaching and the Society of General Internal Medicine National Award for Innovation in Medical Education. He's also the only faculty member to receive 3 times the Silver Shovel Award. I don't know where I got that name, but anyway, for outstanding clinical teaching from the Gales Medical Society, and is, as I said, a faculty member you'll love to get to know and appreciate his comments today. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Paul Fine.
Thank you, Dr. Runge, and good afternoon, students. It is a great privilege to share this momentous day with you and your honored guests. Given my musical mediocrity, I never thought I'd get to the stage at Hill Auditorium. Now that I'm here, I hope you won't mind hearing a few thoughts from someone who has just a little more medical experience. In fact, I've done the math, and if we assume your career started when the ceremony did, my time in medicine has been a little over 820,000 times longer than yours. Yes, that pretty much explains why I see what I do when I look in the mirror. The foundation of medical training is asking and answering important questions. So let's start with the one that is most relevant today. Why is it that physicians traditionally wear white coats? Well, sadly, I don't know. But as a senior faculty member, I can't possibly admit that, so I'll just quickly change the subject and hope that you won't notice. In our profession, we hear a lot about evidence-based medicine, or EBM. It's a systematic approach in which doctors' decisions are guided by the best available evidence from clinical research. The idea is that we apply the research results when a given patient is sufficiently similar to those who participated in the studies. But EBM can't serve as the only basis for advising that patient. We need to add something just as important, what I like to call relationship-based medicine, a crucial part of our profession long before EBM was a possibility. You see, the eventual plan must be determined by doctors and patients together, and that requires a relationship through which physicians learn about their patients' values, priorities, and constraints. And I'm sure you can easily see a fundamental difference emerging. Evidence-based medicine is built on the ways in which patients are similar to others, specifically to study participants, whereas relationship-based medicine requires the discovery of how patients are different from others, identifying the qualities that make them unique individuals. Now, why bring this up on your very first day? Because there's another important difference, one that can affect students' morale. With evidence-based medicine, you're going to find that it takes a while to become confident and capable. There's a lot to learn. This may discourage you at times, as you'll be comparing yourself to residents and faculty who are much more experienced, maybe even 820,000 times more experienced. But there's good news. With relationship-based medicine, you can excel immediately. Of course, we'll be teaching you communication techniques and some good questions to include, but those are just refinements. You have the ability, even today, before your first lecture, to relate to patients with the empathy, respect, and genuine interest that constitute the core of relationship-based medicine. And I'll tell you something else. Often it's these traits that patients appreciate the most. Obviously, they desire and deserve clinical proficiency from any physician with whom they interact. But trust me, they remember the person who takes time with them, treats them with kindness and concern, makes eye contact, and patiently explains things in terms they can understand. For the most part, they enjoy seeing the doctor or the medical student as a person with whom they can make a connection, valuing warmth and personality over sterile expertise. Importantly, these conversations need not be restricted to health issues. In fact, sometimes it's better that the medical topics be put aside for a few minutes. Patients with severe long-term conditions are forced to spend a lot of time thinking about the disease, being asked about the disease, and being advised about the disease. They might easily get the impression that other people regard them merely as a repository of the illness. Consider a woman admitted to the hospital for ongoing treatment of lung cancer. When we choose to talk with her first about almost anything but the cancer, family, hobbies, the books she's reading, it isn't wasting time on trivialities. It's actually therapeutic, an opportunity for her to be viewed and to view herself as the person she has always been. It's remarkable how often I have seen a patient's demeanor change dramatically after such seemingly off-topic discussions. Suddenly there is greater animation, with more eye contact, more smiles. The deepening of our connection in such moments is actually palpable. What about the clinicians? We benefit too. Relationship-based medicine makes what we do more enjoyable and rewarding. I am a proud idealist. But whenever that idealism is threatened by some of the more challenging aspects of the job, I focus my attention on the wonderful relationships that I have with my patients. Sure, we have diabetes to manage and aches and pains to sort out, but when I look at the patient list each day, I have the pleasure of anticipating conversations, even if brief, about vacations, children, music, football, you name it. We have inside jokes. Sometimes we have tearful goodbyes. Many patients will tell me how they're doing until they have first asked about me and my family. How special is that? We clinicians also get a less obvious benefit, one that is sometimes elusive, assurance that we really are making a difference. That's not always possible with evidence-based medicine. If one of my patients has gone 25 years without having a heart attack, I'm delighted, but have no way of knowing with certainty whether my interventions deserve some credit or if she might have done just as well without them. But with relationship-based medicine, one can usually count on some positive feedback. Most of us can tell quickly if an interpersonal encounter is going well, if a patient seems to be getting more relaxed and engaged. Or consider this scenario. Our hospital team has just spent an hour astutely analyzing a patient's complex medical issues, and we go eagerly to share our recommendations. But when we arrive, he looks unwell and tells us that he's chilled and has trouble talking because his mouth is so dry. Now, if we're willing to change our perspective and consider what's most important to him at that moment, shouldn't we postpone the discussion and go find him an extra blanket and a cup of water? He could call for the nurse, of course, but we're there. We can get to it immediately. And if we do it, we'll get the satisfaction of knowing unequivocally that we made a difference, because small acts of kindness and comfort make a difference. One final distinction between EBM and relationship-based medicine is worth noting. Evidence-based care must change naturally as the evidence changes. But there's a pleasing security in knowing that the New England Journal of Medicine is never going to publish a randomized trial that proves we have been wrong all of these years about what we consider the optimal way to relate to our patients. Once you get it right, it stays right. Now, let's be realistic. Optimal relationship-based medicine takes time, which is often in short supply. But it's important to try. You see, emphasizing the relationship helps us remember that doctors have one of the few jobs for which an average day can be a once-in-a-lifetime experience for the other person. Consider first the cast of a hit Broadway musical you're about to see. They recite the same lines and perform the same songs several times every week. So for them, it's just another day at work. But they still need to make that night's performance transcendent and unforgettable for you, even though it's likely that they won't remember any of it. Here's a medical example. When my daughter was hospitalized, she had a particularly difficult day that was made much better by the kind attentions of a wonderful nurse. When I thanked her, I said, when someone asks how your workday was, I bet you're going to say just routine, nothing special, but it wasn't routine for us. And we will always remember your professionalism and kindness. I'm sure many of you can also recall exceptional care provided to you or your family members. And, unfortunately, some of you may have seen healthcare professionals who just seem to be going through the motions. In medicine, we have the privilege, and often daunting responsibility, of working with people during transformative moments of their lives, moments that are often among the most stressful and consequential they will ever have. However routine these days may seem to us, we must recognize that they're exceptional for our patients and act accordingly. What about the days that we don't see as routine? They can be exciting, often involving sophisticated detective work and intellectual stimulation. Unfortunately, we may get so caught up in solving the puzzle that we forget that the puzzle is attached to someone's life. Here too, relationship-based medicine helps by reminding us that patients are people, not just aggregations of data that we get to analyze. But we also need to remember that doctors, like patients, are people, first and foremost, and that's okay. In fact, sometimes that's all a patient really needs. I encounter many situations, especially when patients tell me about burdensome stresses in their lives that seem to call for me to respond the way any kind person would respond to another individual's distress, in a manner that is more personal and less clinical, more Paul and less Dr. Fine. Compassionate medical care is fundamentally about one person's caring response to another. We don't even need medical training or the white coat to accomplish that. In my view, our white coats, however we came to wear them, represent just the right blend of evidence-based and relationship-based medicine. Even though the tag on the back of mine insists that it's 80% polyester and 20% cotton. I've even come to appreciate a symbolic meaning in the white fabric. You see, we live in an era of disease advocacy, with many conditions now represented by ribbons of a certain color, each designed to heighten public awareness and to foster supportive community for those affected. Red for heart disease, purple for pancreatic cancer, etc. One site I found listed 502 different examples. Might someone feel overlooked because there's no way for us to acquire and display all 502? But I look at it like this. White light refracts into all of these colors. We can think of the unadorned whiteness of a coat as having within it the entire spectrum of ribbon colors, a rainbow of compassion for those with any health concern. For now, most days, you'll set the coat aside. You'll learn the science. You'll study the evidence that underlies evidence-based medicine. It's all tremendously important and interesting. But the coat will be there waiting, ready to go, urging you to offer your future patients some implicit promises. I'll take time to know you and make it my plan to listen with kindness and do what I can. I'm still just a person, but one who will try, one who can smile, and one who can cry. I can't promise a cure, but I promise to care. When you're looking back, you will know I was there. All this sounds pretty idealistic, I know. But this is a day for idealism. In fact, this is a profession for idealism. And we need it now more than ever. Medical students often come in full of such notions, only to have them eroded somewhat by the demands and the culture of clinical medicine. Let me encourage you to fight against that tendency. Imbue your sense of purpose with some elasticity so that it won't be displaced too long by the stress that this work inevitably produces. Idealism isn't naivete or a denial that these professional stresses exist. On the contrary, I have found that it helps me on the hard days to remember why I chose a career in medicine and what I hope to accomplish when I began my medical training 39 years ago. In other words, I may not know why doctors first started wearing white coats, but I do know why I wear one. I very much hope that you find as much meaning in yours.
Thank you, Dr. Fine, for those words. And now, it is time to begin the cloaking process.